Hey everybody, it's Dean Jackson. Welcome to the live simulcast of two, not just one podcast today. We're doing two podcasts today at one time. This is for our More Cheese, Less Whiskers audience and the Listing Agent Lifestyle. So I'm super excited. I've got my friend Dan Martell all the way from British Columbia, Canada, transplanted from New Brunswick or Nova Scotia? New
Yeah, man,
Brunswick.
how do you know that? That's
I
amazing, Dean.
know.
I
I'm a
appreciate you.
fan. I'm a fan.
Wow.
So welcome. I'm super excited. You got your new book is out. Buy Back Your Time, which you had me
Yeah.
at hello on that. I mean, you had me at the title right there. So
Yeah.
I can't
I
wait.
feel like yeah, you could have been my co-author, man. You've been such an inspiration over the years of just like talking about, like just getting your hands off stuff. So I'm
Oh
excited to chat
man.
with you about this.
Yes. So very cool. So let's kind of introduce who Dan Martell is because you're fascinating. How long do you think we've known each other now? I don't remember the
Uh,
first time we met.
Probably like 5 or 6 years. We probably met in person through Talkie. You know what's funny?
Yes.
Actually,
Okay.
you posted on Facebook about my Clarity product. That was the first time we interacted.
Oh, that's
And
right.
you
Okay.
you saw something and you were like, "Hey, is this thing legit?" And then everybody chimed in, and then we like started to message each other on Facebook. That's the first time. But Dean, your legend preceded you prior to that. I just want you to know, like, I knew of
For,
you years prior, so
I love it.
I was in a bit of in awe. So, but yeah, I think in person through Talkie probably 5 years ago.
Talking more. Perfect. So I
Yeah.
was just saying when we got to do this, we haven't spent a ton of time together, but in the few times that we have, it's like I really resonate with you. Like we got a nice little bromance budding, which is kind of cool because you have all of the same kind of, uh, approach to lifestyle and blending the two to, create your own vision. So I'd love to kind of have you share a little bit about the Dan Martell story so that we
Yeah. I
can.
mean, I think like just today, so people have context, like I run two 8-figure companies, SaaS Academy, which is one of the largest coaching companies for software as a service CEOs. And then the other one is High Speed Ventures, which is my investment and kind of like family office where, I've done 50 investments companies in like Hootsuite, Udemy, like $1 billion companies. And now we look at deals in both blockchain technology as well as SaaS, because obviously that's
Mm,
my world. It's what I've been doing for 20
right.
years. But the truth is like my story started off as kind of a troubled youth. I grew
Mm,
up in a lot of dark times, addiction around me. My mom was an alcoholic and, ended up in and out of jail a couple times. And, what really set me straight was I got to a place where I ended up high and drunk in a stolen car with a handgun in a bag sitting next to me. And when I'd stolen the car, I told myself that if like I get caught or pulled over, I'm going to just pull the gun and let the police do their job and take my life.
oh my
And
goodness.
I just didn't want to go back to jail. Like it was such a horrible place. So
Wow.
I ended up pulling over on the side of the highway to get some gas, and there was a routine roadblock. And I slowed down. Cops asked me for driver's license. I lied, parents' car, don't have, forgot my license. They asked me to pull over and I just took off. And it ended up in like this crazy, like, thought it lasted a lot longer. Probably it did, maybe like 3 or 4 minutes, but I ended up in a neighborhood and I saw an open garage door. And, again, maybe too many action movies made me think I
Right.
could pull into that garage door and close it and hide out in this house. But I ended up coming in way too fast and smashing the side of the house.
Oh my goodness.
And I went for the gun
Wow.
and pulled on it, and it got stuck on kind of the top lace of the bag it was in the handrest. And I kept pulling on it and pulling on it. And before I knew it, the door opened and the police grabbed me and literally feet like just floated across the front lawn and threw me in the back of a
Wow.
cop car. And that was a turning point for me. I woke up sober the next day in a jail cell. And I don't know, there's something that told me that maybe somebody was looking out for me, somebody from
Hmm.
above. I didn't have I had zero self-esteem, self-worth. And so I ended up doing 6 months in an adult jail due to the severity of the crimes and whatnot. And it was after that I got released to a rehab center. And this all ties to the book in a kind of neat way. Is I did 11 months in this like therapeutic community called Portage in New Brunswick. and, rebuilt the relationship with my family, understood my emotional and like all things I didn't know that's what we called it, but like feeling management meetings and anger management and like, learning how to process a lot of the trauma and challenges I was dealing with. It was at the end of that program, I was helping Rick, the maintenance guy. He was like, it's kind of like a father figure in my life. And he, the place was built on an old church camp. So we were cleaning out one of the camps nobody'd been in. And in one of the rooms was this old 486 computer and a yellow book on Java programming sitting next to it. And I literally just opened it up, and I thought computer programming was like, zeros and ones, or like, like just not English. And in Java reads like English, if this, then that. And I was like, okay, this is interesting.
Oh, that sounds
so I literally just, I started the computer up, followed chapter 1. And within 20 minutes, I got the computer to say, hello world.
Wow.
And literally there was something that clicked. It's funny because like in the grand scheme of things, that's not that impressive. But for me at that age, 17 years old, never having done anything in my life, I was like, maybe I was broken over here because I had this skill set. And I just started to believe that maybe I was a good programmer. Like maybe for whatever reason, this is something I should lean into. And my dad always joked, he said, if you could just find something that you were passionate about that wasn't illegal, I think you'd do okay with your life. So like when I got out, I was either going to go into botany or programming. And he's like, you can have a garden, but you should really lean into this programming thing. And this was 1997. So I discovered this little thing called the internet. And that was my life. I literally became addicted. That became my new addiction, writing code. I would stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, reading everything about programming and database design and architecture. And then just started building apps, like everything from desktop apps in Visual Basic to websites in Cold Fusion and CGI and Perl and PHP. And I literally learned the internet.
Talk about like cresting the top of what is the biggest wave we've ever seen is 1997 Java programming, getting that bug. And because that was state of the art in 97, right? I mean, that you're getting
like that version of it might have just like 2-3 years. Like
kind of so you're at the beginning of something. And I look at that too, like learning. You're Gen X, I'm Gen X, the whole thing. Or you're right on the cusp of millennial. How old
42, are you? So I don't even know where that puts me. So no, 79 is when I was born.
Yeah, so you're Gen X like me. I was 66, but I'm an elder Gen X. Yeah. You're the end of the Gen X.
Pretty young, man.
Yeah, the last Gen Xer. But I look at, I started getting online in 1996, 97, when it was all coming, and just realizing, that's the future. But, you being on the beginning of something like that, and that's really like, imagine if you applied yourself. That's been a recurring theme. I've been talking lately about this idea. When my mom died in 2013, I found a box that had all the report cards from my elementary school all the way up, right? And the recurring theme, the comment that summed it all up, because they used to do handwritten comments on your report card, was, Dean is able to achieve excellent results with what seems like little effort. Imagine if he applied himself. And I imagine that, you're saying, like your dad saying that to you, that if you found something you were passionate about, I think you'd do okay. Because it was a sense of, essentially he's saying to you, imagine if you applied yourself.
Stuff. Like, I was really good at getting in trouble. Like,
you were applying yourself,
doing nothing. Like selling drugs and like running these like mini operations. Like, there was some.
What do you know? Let me dissect the Dan Martell persona here for a second. Do you know your Colby, or are you into any of those?
I literally have an Evernote file with all of my
them.
Yeah, just because I do them all.
Right. So I wonder if you might have,
but I'm a high quick start, pretty decent follow through, like a 5 or 6. Like I'm not follow through. But I think I'm an 8 quick start.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And so you look at it that you've got all the skill sets there. Have you done your Myers-Briggs?
Yeah, I got that one too. I just new iPhone, so I got to like relog in.
Okay, no problem.
But just to wrap up the way it applies to the book, what was crazy with software and really this like subscription reoccurring revenue business model, which I've always been in place before it was ever called SaaS, is that there's something about writing code for me, and maybe Dean, you can resonate with this, like creating systems. It's like this repeatable playbook. So like I grew up in so much chaos that when I was writing code and I knew if I built this thing, that it would always do the thing that I designed it to do, as long as the computer had power and it ran. And it was like, became this like addiction of like creating consistency and predictability in my life, which may sound weird, but like through therapy, I kind of discovered this. It's like, that was the thing that I fell in love with.
I take the programming approach to marketing, and I call them, what I'm creating are scale ready algorithms. That's what, because the thing is, once you crack the code, once you figure out the algorithm, like, you know, I'd love to jam on some of the SaaS things too, but you know, once you crack the code on acquiring a new customer, like this is the ad, this is the conversion sequence, this is what happens in the trial experience, this is the model. Once you get that locked in and you input at the beginning a new person who's raised their hand, and they go through your 21-day experience and they come out the other end with a, you know, 25% or 50% or whatever conversion rate, that's scalable, right? Once you've figured it out, it's stable. And I've always been fascinated by that is true, that you don't have to try and reinvent it every time. You're not constantly trying to figure it out. Once you figure it out, it's like a pretty smooth path, as long as you've got an audience to get in front of.
Yeah. That's the thing that even as a coach today, like that is the thing that I am absolutely, honestly, maybe addicted to. Like I have high, you know, I'll put off other stuff to just like work with people through these problems because I find them so mentally stimulating and fascinating.
I love solving the puzzles.
My Myers, got them all if you're curious, but Myers for me is ENTJ.
Yeah, you're the power. I should be predicting these, but you are the field marshal. That's the one. That's the best. If you were gonna like go to central casting and build the perfect entrepreneur, ENTJ is the perfect thing. It really is. Because being extroverted, being able to communicate with people comfortably, intuitive, to be able to see the big picture, not just get caught up in the details. I imagine you're not off the chart intuitive.
No,
you're probably
my Colby is 5284.
Yeah.
So I don't know what those stick to in regards to the categories, but that's my 5284.
But the fact finding, you know, your natural tendency is first five. Yeah, so your mode is to
not too much.
You come up with ideas and you dig into the facts enough to prove you're looking for proof that this is going to be the right thing. And then I imagine your next step, if you said your implementer is the third on that you then go into, let's build a prototype. And then you're off. Then you've got somebody else to shore up all the follow through.
But who, not how. That's when I'm like, okay, let's build a team around this.
I love that. So I would have definitely predicted that about you. ENTJ is the winning move. I'm an INTP, and so there's a big difference between the. You know, I often joke that if you're an INTP, I'm a scientist and I love to get the things figured out. But there's, you know, I really have to flex my J to be able to, because your natural tendency is you have a preference for action and tying things up and, you know, having conclusions kind of thing in the J. You're discipline in a way to get things done.
Oh, that's interesting. That makes a lot of sense.
So there's a, you know, joke in the Colby world that my Eben Pagan is an INTP as well. And so we would joke that it's our penis gets in our way, you know, our perceiverness that it's rather to have options.
Oh, got it. The penis.
Yeah, my penis. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, guys, keep it clear.
Keep it clear. Yes, P-ness, right?
Ness.
So that's fascinating. That's really good. I'm glad to see that. But you're the power. ENTJ is the power profile for entrepreneurs. CEOs are usually ESTJ or ISTJ because they're very like, this is, you follow the rules kind of thing. They like things that are set. Intuitives like to see the bigger picture and stuff. So, and it's funny because
That's
you look
cool.
at, you're probably surrounded by, there's certain prototype things like ESTP are the, extreme sports guys, the extreme athletes. You're probably
Okay.
surrounded
The
by a
adrenaline
lot of them.
junkies.
The
That's kind of what I
mountain,
do outside of work. Yeah. We
absolutely,
snow
but the
bike, we
mountain
mountain bike, and we
bikers
ski
and
bike.
those
Yeah.
are all, but that's what they seek, is that physical, the sensational
Mm,
rush of doing that. So it's good to know. So
that's
that's something. If you're going to build one, you're the perfect type. So
well,
let's
I got lucky
pick
because
back up
yeah.
with your programming. You're learning programming. You're on the edge. You could see, I could see, everybody could see where things were headed, that this was going to be the most important thing, the internet.
You know what's, I'll be honest with you, Dean, like back
Mm-hmm.
then, like I wasn't, because I was so young, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
19, 18, 19, 20. Like I just knew this is what I like to do. What sold me on the internet, and I distinctly remember I built this site called Want the Future. All my friends started getting digital cameras, right? Early days. Fuck, I don't even know. They were 2 megapixel cameras.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And I literally downloaded this like open source portal software built in ASP dot, maybe not even ASP.NET, just ASP.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and like I configured it so that everybody could upload their photos, and then we could all like share and like comment, like kind of Facebook-esque, but like I'm not taking claim.
You invented Facebook.
No, I just built a place where my friends could do stuff. So like the aspect of creating something and having a URL and being able to share it in real time through an email with any human in the world, that was like that, like, because I remember my dad worked he was the general manager of a manufacturing like electrical engine repair shop, and like for years I didn't know what my dad did. So I went from like knowing people that work at companies that have no clue what the actual like work product is or seeing it, to then me doing stuff that I could share in real time with any human being and they could interact with it. And I just thought, why would you not want to do that kind of thing? Like, why would you want to create any other type of like, why would you want to work outside of that? Like, that's so cool that you build stuff that you can like share and have people interact with in your real time. Like that became like, so call it the internet, but the internet just enabled this thing that I just personally resonated with on that aspect of it.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then, so what was the first kind of commercially viable thing that you did?
I built a bunch of apps. Yeah, there was like 15 different things. The first business that I actually made money on was called Maritime Vacation. Right. So again, I don't take credit for Airbnb, but it was a vacation rental site in the East Coast of Canada. That's why it's called Maritime Vacation.ca. And I built it because my dad had a cottage and I watched him, answer the same 15 questions all day long from people trying to book his cottage, right, to rent it out. And I was like, so I was essentially looking for problems in the world to build. So it's like I'd read a book on like Cold Fusion, it's programming language, and I'd want to build something like useful. So I'd use things around me to do that with. Watching my dad do that. So I convinced him, I was like, hey, Dad, I could build you a web page with all these answers. And you could literally tell them, go to this site and booking and calendaring. And he was like, well, how much would that cost? And I lied to him. I said, it'd be $600. And that's what it cost for the server that I wanted. This like high powered, like multi-tenant, essentially, so I could build other stuff. So he gave me the $600, and then I built him his thing, but I built it in a way that other people could have listings. And then, so I built it and I was like, yay. And then I was like, okay, I need to get customers. And what was funny is like, I was a programmer. I was more introverted back then. Like I didn't really talk to people. And my buddy Dave he was in networking school. So we'd talk about like geeky software stuff. And he goes, he's such a burnout though. He just goes like, hey dude, like there's this catalog the government makes for tourism. And I think they have all the cottages listed. And I'm like, where? And he's like, downtown maybe. And I like literally ran downtown, found a place that had this. And then I had the listings, which were all like my potential customers. And then I like opened up, I didn't want to do it myself. So I paid my little brother Mo $3 an hour to enter in all the listings into a Microsoft Access database. And then I did essentially like direct mail marketing. I just didn't know it was called that. I just literally created a mail merge with Microsoft Word, then printed it out and labels and stuck them on envelopes. And it was funny because the form pretty much said, like, if you want a website for your cottage, you know, it's $35 if you want, and send 3 photos, fill out this questionnaire. And if you want your photos back, an extra $5 and I'll ship them back. So I sent this out not knowing if it would work. And then my dad, you got to understand, I just got out of like being in trouble. So my dad comes home one day and checks the mail and comes up into the apartment we were living in and just drops a bunch of mail on the counter. And he looks at me and he goes, "What did you do?"
What did
I was
you
like,
do?
I was like, oh shit. And I remember I started opening them up. This is back when people sent money in the mail.
Yeah, of
so
course.
There was literally $35, $40 in the mail with these listings. And I probably ended up with like 250 listings. Not a lot of money, but that was like, for me, that was my first like real business, right? Where people that weren't family members, not friends, paid me money through the internet to create something. And that,
how many letters did you mail? Do you remember?
Oh, it would have been like 800, I think, in the area. It was very small. That was the lesson I actually learned when people said, like, why didn't that work? I chose too small of a market. I ended up becoming friends with the guy who owned atthecottage.com. He was in Ontario. And I realized, like, this guy is, you know, more serious, better funded. Like, he's going to make it. Like, I'm not. Yeah, I got it.
But to have the idea, I remember like, I was looking at you telling that story, and it's like imagine when you first got bit by the direct response bug, you know, the first time. I imagine, like, when I first did my first direct response postcard, it had a business reply card on it. And I remember coming to the office and our receptionist had this, she presented me with this little bundle of reply cards with rubber band around them. And there were 11 replies the first day that I had mailed. And I can still get that giddy feeling when knowing that I was never going to have to make another cold call again. Because now I figured out how to put words on paper and get people to call me. And I've never made another cold call since then. But so I imagine, you know, I saw this twinkle in your eye when you kind of telling the story of your dad coming up and dropping these. And there's, how many were there that first day that had
probably like 17, you know,
17 enough checks for him to be concerned. In the mail. Yeah. That's just so like, wow. I love stories like that. And
well, it's funny because like I just actually considered it a failure because like I ended up, you know, after like a year just getting busy with other stuff and not like doing any more marketing.
I mean, the fact that you figured something out that you got people to do that probably lit the fire.
That was the first marketing I've ever done. And I was like, okay, I kind of understand this. Create value, position it well. Make it unique. People will pay you for it. Ask. Like, that's the other thing. Like, you know, Dean, I'm sure you talk to people all the time and they're like, oh, I'm trying to do this. It's like, you're not even like making an ask. You know, sometimes they do social media posts and it's like very fluffy and there's no like clear call to action. You know, they're just like scared to ask for business. It's like, I learned at a very young age, ask, make the ask.
In the simplest way. Yeah. Once you understand what they really want, just ask them. Yeah. Make an offer. So cool. So, okay, keep going.
So, I mean, there's so many, like, so I did Maritime Vacation, you know, ended up like too small of a market. Shouldn't have called it maritime.ca, maritimevacation.ca. That was then, so I learned that, went to the next one, which was NB Host, which is a hosting company. Cause like I had this server now, and then I had a lot of friends knew that I was programming, building stuff. So, you know, I build stuff for people and then I would host it. And then it's where I got, okay, subscription, right? Like that was I didn't have subscription with Maritime Vacation, but now I started to get into the reoccurring revenue side. I was like, oh, that's powerful. I work really hard. I get a customer, but they could stay for 7 or 10 years, especially with hosting. It's so sticky. Most people forget. But I did that for 2 years. We kind of screwed that up because like I got too nerdy on like buying expensive stuff. So me and my brother each put in like a $10,000 line of credit. Like that's all we had. You know, we were probably 19, 20. And, you know, he was the sales guy. Again, I was the guy in the server room. Like I wasn't an extrovert. Like maybe I had the potency in my DNA or something, but like I was more like, I'm going to sit down and configure servers and mail servers and servers. And like, so, and the problem there is we ended up getting the credit union as a customer, a bank. Okay. You know how like sometimes you got to act bigger than you are. We overplayed that because we were not capable.
Right.
I mean, it was dumb. Like
Yeah.
my brother was like, yeah, we're going to get this deal. It was like a $45,000 rewrite of their website and integration. And it got to a point where their site went down because I clearly didn't understand what I was dealing with. And they threatened to sue. And I was just like, look, dude, this is stressing me out. I'm like, I don't think this is for us. So that company lasted probably 2 years, kept the reoccurring stuff, but I just kind of like kept reading, I was always entrepreneurial. Like I had one job, it lasted 9 months, but like even within 3 months, I figured out how to like hire interns to do most of my job. So like I didn't actually like literally would play Unreal Tournament, and I had this like alt tab switching screen thing. So like three of us would be in this like cubicle area playing Unreal. I told them if they get their work done by like 1, then we would play for like the afternoon. I was their manager, which is stupid because they were the same age as me. And like people would walk by and all 3 of us would just like, and it would change it to like a Word doc or some code screenshot. And then we'd switch it back and keep playing. So yeah, I was like, I was always a tinkerer doing stuff. And it wasn't until I did consulting for a while. I moved out West. It was when I got to give a lot of credit to reading real business books. Part of that, I was reading software books. At 23, I was in Ottawa, Canada, consulting for, our version of the aviation department in Canada called NavCan. And on a lunch break, I walked over to the mall to get some lunch, and there was a Chapters bookstore. That's our Canadian version of like Indigo or whatever. And I found this book called Love is a Killer App by a guy named Tim Sanders. And he was the chief creative officer of Yahoo. And it wasn't even the book, because I'd never read books, because like I read computer books and I was super passionate about it, but I never read like story books, because my brain would just like, stop. Yeah. And I bought the audio CDs, and I literally went back to my desk, opened up the tray and put the first CD in and just plugged it in. And I didn't really work. I was just like, I was getting paid to listen to this audio book, but that book literally transformed my life. Wow. Because in it, he talks about 3 things. He says, his whole argument was good people do win the race, right? Dog eat dog world is not true. Your network is your net worth, right? Which are all things that anybody that's done any personal development starts to understand. And then the third is you should acquire knowledge, not only for yourself. This was the like upgrade. He says, you should read for your customers. And I was like, whoa, like I could see why you'd read for yourself, for your business. Like, no, learn the biggest challenges your customers are having and read the books they should be reading, and then feed that back to them. Yeah. And that's how you show up powerfully and valuably. And I'm like, oh, so yeah, I just started reading more books and started going through the classics. And like now I've read over 1,500, probably 1,600 books, read 10 pages a day, every day. And the fun story, especially as it relates to my new book, Buy Back Your Time, is I was in Ottawa 2 weeks ago, and I went back to the Chapters, and I realized next year it'll be exactly 20 years to the day that I bought that book. So I'm going to get Tim Sanders to come up to Ottawa, and we're going to do a dual book signing. It's kind of nice. Like a story great. Of like the possibility of what you can do in your life. Yeah. I love that led me on to like actually starting my 3rd company, Spheric Technologies. It was an enterprise portal software, and, a lot of challenges, but like, some fun marketing stories. I used to use job postings that people posted to figure out who had problems with portal software. So I would literally create a scraper to monitor the job postings for certain job titles and like text. And then I would use that to like essentially create a hit list of phone calls I would make. Right. Yeah. Cause I was always like asking myself, one of my mentors. So I read the E-Myth, and this is probably relevant to a lot of people. I read the E-Myth probably like the 5th book in, and I ended up hiring an E-Myth coach, this guy named Bob. And it was so pivotal for me because like now I had a framework for business, begin with the end in mind, create standard operating. That's what started it for me. Stuff. The E-Myth. Yeah. In 1990, I read the E-Myth. Yeah. I mean, such a classic. And so like I hired Bob, and he gave me the pattern. I was willing to do the work. I just needed some guidance. And he's the one that told me this story about, how to find the customers. And he shared this story about this sales guy that sold office equipment or office supplies that would just crush it. And he never came into the office, and all the other salespeople were in the office and working their butt off. And this guy that was out and never around, just like absolutely crushed it every month, top of the leaderboard. And he'd been there for, 17 years. And I guess he was retiring. So he found the youngest, rookiest, like most potential kid in the office and said, like, I'm going to teach you my ways. And he says, meet me in the industrial park at this address tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And this kid like shows up, sees him parked there. He waves him over, come sit in the car, and they sit in the car, and he's telling them a story. He goes, what are we doing here? This kid asked, and the top sales guy goes, see those trucks? He goes, yeah. He goes, you know what the building is? He goes, no. He goes, that's our competitor's distribution center. And he goes, okay, why are we here? He goes, watch this. The truck leaves. He follows the truck. He figures out exactly every store that truck went to, figured out when the stores needed different supplies. And then he would call the week before because he knew that there was demand for those supplies. And Bob taught me this because he said, Dan, you need to find out the path where the trucks are in your market. Like, what are the leading indicators that's going to tell you the person's ready to make a decision?
I love that.
And that was the beginning of like really building.
Of called that going upstream is the, similar thing. We did a wedding guide in Toronto with a party rental company, down the list of if you're, because I asked them, what's the most thing? What would be your dream client? And they said outdoor wedding would be the jackpot, for them, because you get the tents and the tables and generators and everything, right?
It's the highest value.
Their highest value thing. But choosing a party rental company isn't the highest excitement on a new bride to be's list. And they're invisible prospects. You can't get a list of people who are, just got engaged. And so we put together this directory called 100 Great Places to Have an Outdoor Wedding in Toronto. And
so smart.
Advertise that. So people who asked for the guide were now people who were planning an outdoor wedding. And we turned it into a profit center, because other people, the venues, wanted to have a feature listing in the directory. Other florists, music bookers, bands, formal, tuxedo rent, all the other people in that ecosystem were also very eager to get brides to be at the genesis, which is first when they get.
And it's interesting, Dean, because that's honestly one of your superpowers, because I've seen you do it with so many people in real time. And I think like that's, for me, this muscle that I started to develop maybe with the Maritime Vacation and over the year. And it's just now second nature, right? Yeah. Going upstream, figuring out like what's true about our perfect customer, right? At the moment that, if you could insert yourself into a conversation that, they're at the end of the buying decision cycle. So that conversation's highly valuable, highly fruitful. My buddy, Nick, I'll tell one for everybody listening, because it might give you some creative ideas, but he sells signs. He's one of my best friends, sells signs. And a lot of the big valuable projects are like new commercial buildings that need to like not only have an outdoor signs, but like there's a lot of like indoor signs that people don't even consider, right? Like what's called signway and sign finding or path finding and stuff like that. And, I just kept asking him like, well, who knows about these projects? Like who would have insight for who's about to build one of these buildings before they make a decision on their signing package company? And he realized it was architects. So all he did, one simple move, once a month, he would organize lunch with all the architects, because it's a town of 250,000. It's like there's maybe like 8 firms.
Yeah.
So he would just like have this reoccurring lunch with the architects to keep top of mind, create a relationship. And it just all of a sudden now all the work goes to Nick magically. It's like
there's so much.
Sometimes it's so simple for people to get ridiculously full and get all the top customers. If they're just willing to like think, like you said, go upstream.
Think, just step up, just put your head up instead of looking down and thinking, how am I going to get party rental business, or how am I going to get sign business? Look up and think, what's in the ecosystem? What are they doing before they get to you? I love that thought. So that's great. I love stories like that. Yeah. And it's a great way to buy back your time. Is when you've got a system that brings people to you, you don't have to spend your time going out to find people. But
I'm always looking for like minimum effective dose, right? It's like, what's the least amount of effort to fill the pipeline, right?
That's why
and you can sometimes do it hard and expensive, and then over time you're like, okay, I got to get more efficient.
Yeah, I look at collections. Like if I look now retrospectively at the path of the things that I've created, the like opt-in page with just the name and email on the thing as the only option on the page was through a process of what's the minimum effective dose to just reach the objective that I'm trying to reach, which is I want somebody I want the highest percentage of people who come to the landing page to leave their name and their email address, and nothing outperformed.
Nope. Don't want to
only
confuse
that.
them. Yeah,
Then I
it's
look
true.
collectively now at, the 90-minute book as the cheat code for books is that it's 100% about the book title and the fact that you have a book and a way for somebody to get it. That's almost 100% of the thing. They don't know or care whether the book is 50 pages or 250 pages, right? So you combine a book with the title that they really want, combined with an opt-in page where it's the only option. Just put your name and your contact information to get it, and you've got this magical thing. And the 9-word email is like that too. Rather than
Same.
writing all
Dude, you're
these
such a
long
legend,
things.
man. I use all these
Yeah.
things and I try to, like you are the originator of some very cool marketing tools that people have
And
made
it's
millions.
just looking back at it now to see how they all dovetail, how they all work together.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a fun thing to look back at and realize, boy, that's 25 years since 1997. You think about crazy, and here we
Yeah.
are. But let's talk
Yeah.
about your book, because I'm excited to hear I mean, you can see the pathway to get to these, but what are you excited about the book? Like, you've got a title that is right there. I mean, I want the book, and it's, haven't even seen it. You could have called it any other thing, right? But Buy Back Your Time
Yeah.
is like, that is what I call a just do it title.
I wanted to write a book that if people didn't read, but they had to stare at on their bookshelf, it would
Yeah.
hopefully get them focused on the right things.
Yeah.
Like, like some of these classics, you're just like,
Yeah.
the title alone,
Yeah.
even if nobody read it,
Yeah.
helps them move towards a greater future.
Yeah.
What am I excited about? A lot of stuff. I mean, the big thing is my passion is helping every entrepreneur, not just software entrepreneurs, like hardcore entrepreneur. I think entrepreneurs wake up every day to make the world a better place for every other person to live in. And I think that is awesome.
Yeah.
So my passion in the movement behind this book is to help entrepreneurs create more, right? Do more of their art, produce more in the world, create more value for the rest of the world, and help them understand where their psychology, mindset, and beliefs have stopped them from growing. And I call that the pain line, right? Pain line's this place where a lot of entrepreneurs end up. And it's essentially like more growth equals more pain. What I've discovered is no entrepreneur will grow into pain, right? It's like holding an arrow to their throat and saying, step forward. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And like, you see it all the time where if they haven't figured out the stuff you teach, they're like, they might have an opportunity to 10x their business the next month, and they don't do it because it's going to create chaos in their calendar. So like, I really help them understand not only how to avoid the pain line, because if they do, they'll either sell, sabotage, or stall. Those are the three options I see all the time, which doesn't produce more value in the world, which I want to help solve. And so I help them get clear in understanding the value of their time and give them a simple framework to figure out what I call the buyback rate. And then I teach them the buyback loop. And the buyback loop sounds simplistic, which is why I designed to actually work with Simon Bowen on this. It's it's audit, transfer, fill, right? It's how do you audit your time in a way? And I teach it in the book called the time and energy audit, where it's not only just like dollar amount for tasks you're doing, but also the energy. Because I've realized that if growing your business produces a lot more negative energy, then people are just going to hit the pain line. Like they're just going to be like, hey, I thought this business was supposed to produce this new future that's just not happening, and I don't want to deal with it anymore. So once you audit your time and then find the opportunities to transfer, that's the second skill. And I teach them exactly how to do it, teaching different processes and where most people make mistakes, systems, but I teach this camcorder method and a few other things. And then the third one is fill. And I think that's the one where, even today, if I went to an entrepreneur that was struggling, I said, okay, poof, magically you have 2 days back in your week. What do you do with those 2 days? Most of them wouldn't know what to do. So addicted to the chaos and reactionary way that they've been working. So what I teach them is first off, do more of the thing that makes you the most money in your business that you have demand for today. So if you have a development shop, write more code. If you are a coach, more. Like a lot of people try to run away from the thing they're doing too quick to pay other people to do it a lot of money. And then they end up with a bunch of crap work that they're paying, that they're doing. So they end up becoming the executive assistant instead of like only the best coach and have other things taken care of them. So I teach them kind of how to do the time trades. But the fill for me is do more of the thing that's going to make you the most money in your business today. And eventually you could trade that out. Second is skills. To have more, you have to become more, and being really deliberate about like what skills you invest in and develop as an entrepreneur, and being honest with yourself where those deficits are. That's a big area to invest in or to fill your time with. Third is mindsets and beliefs. Like I really think, Dean, this, like we see people like the how to, I mean, come on, it's YouTube. Like you could go learn how to do anything.
Right. Anything.
But yeah, I teach you Facebook ads and you don't do it. It's because you have a belief about what that means for you or what people are going to think or what they say. So mindset's a big area I talk about in the book. And then the fourth one, so it's more of the thing that makes you the most money in your business today. You have demand for, do that. Then it's a skill typically, then it's mindset, and then it's relationships, right? Like when I think of where my next level of growth, and even just being like, I still remember, Dean, we were at Tataki's event in California and we were talking about, how you have somebody support you in your house. And like, we had people in our house, but we didn't have them at the level as you have. And that changed my reflection. So I literally consolidated all those different people into one role called our house manager. And you said something about like having a water bottle next to your bed. And like, and the thing was, I just had a belief like, that sounds a bit much, right? Like I'm not a king, I'm not a prince, right? Exactly. Like I had this belief, like I don't want to be crazy. But dude, today at 4:00, I put my hand out like this and there's a protein shake that shows up. Right. Like I have, these little toothpicks that I love with the dental floss, and I have my type of gum. They're behind me. They're in all my cars.
I call those bottomless
all
things.
That.
So we've got bottomless water, bottomless.
Yeah. We set up protocols. We sit literally like end of the day, she goes into my closet. Cause like, I'm working out, I'm running in and out, I'm changing stuff and I make a mess. Right. But at 4:30, she goes in there, she cleans it all up. She puts stuff like, and it's just like, because I really just want to do two things. I want to spend time with people I love, my family, my friends, relationships, partners, or I want to work on things that I'm only uniquely qualified to do that I feel aligns with my mission. Yeah. And anything that doesn't look like that, I use it as a feedback loop. Elon Musk talks about self-driving, the full self-driving algorithm. And he said something once that I love. He said, he went to the engineers because they were like trying to figure out like, where the algorithm didn't pick up the right scenario, blah, blah, blah. And he said, it's very simple, guys. Like anytime the person has to touch the steering wheel should be a feedback loop that there was an error. And that's where you need to go look to figure out the algorithm. It's not when you think there could have been an accident. It's if the person felt like they touched the wheel because they didn't feel comfortable, period. That's an error. So anytime I'm doing something, well, exactly. So to me, it's like anytime I do something that doesn't fit those two things, I write it down and I like work at getting rid. And it might sound so subtle, like, even, we got a new puppy and like, I didn't want to take it to the vet, right? Cause I'd rather be, he's so cool, Blaze. But like, I'd rather be on podcast interviews, right? Like, I mean, it could be so simple as like, I'm going to Tony Robbins next week to Date with Destiny. And I wanted the whole like Airbnb we have set up with like all the food and stuff. And like, I just let her know and she has the protocol for like how to set up our Airbnbs. And it's like, when you can just really like flow through life, it's fat. And like, Dean, I'm not trying not to work. I actually try to work as hard as I can and get as much leverage as I can.
Yeah. Right.
And so like, as I move through the world, I want these people to kind of connect to me as I need to execute. And this is the thing, I even have to tell my executive assistant and her team and my house manager, like, I want to sprint. And if you ask me to slow down, we need to figure out how to upgrade things. Like I'm moving and I want to run. And anybody that interacts with me that I feel like I have to slow down to interact with, that's a bad place. So that's the game I'm playing is how do I increase the cycle time on everything?
I love you upgraded your whole house situation.
Totally. I think did you share, was it you that told me about Dan Sullivan's 4-season living? I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but
that fits like Dan's a lot like we are in terms of that was kind of the inspiration for it. But their like summary of it is they don't want Babs and Dan don't want to do any more at home. than they would if they were living at the Four Seasons. And the funny thing is, we've adopted that because we were doing that with the with the support at home and all of that. But we've actually now started lovingly referring to our home as the Four Seasons Valhalla, because my neighborhood is Valhalla, 50 homes, a gated community. And Luba made this Four Seasons Valhalla logo that we have.
Beautiful.
If you come and stay there, we've got robes with the Four Seasons.
Do I get an invite, Dean?
Valhalla
Because I'm going to
and
come. I want to be
of course.
inspired.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to come.
And so that's.
Oh, you got monogrammed robes and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. And coffee.
Oh, you actually like made it a place and a thing
and
a
throw pillows with the Four Seasons.
Oh, I love it.
Just as a inspiration. It's a great model, because you start to think, if you were applying that model to your home, what would happen if the Four Seasons Kelowna happened to set up right there in your house?
Well, you know what it was for me.
All the things, housekeeping,
all that,
food and beverage, maintenance, security, networking, concierge, all of it. They'd have all those departments. Imagine if you had the full weight of the Four Seasons managing your house. And it's funny, we had somebody come and stay with us who thought, they just assumed, it's a Four Seasons community.
Neighborhood,
yeah, that's what it looks like, because it's a park and it's the whole thing. That they were thinking, I guess this is. I didn't know the Four Seasons had a place in Winter Haven, but there you go.
But what I love about that is it's a lot more approachable. Like we both know, like hundreds of entrepreneurs make hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, still do not have that quality of life.
Right.
And literally in the book, it's the last chapter I called The Buyback Life, because I really wanted to help people kind of like work through the business stuff, like leave some inspiration at the end. And just like, if this resonated with you, let me paint a picture of what's possible, because there's no world where if you apply some of this stuff in your personal life and you get a really good executive assistant and then you have a really great, Luba or house manager, whatever around you, that your life isn't just going to dramatically transform to allow you to produce more, to create more, to just feel more available for people and for yourself, right? Like the worst is, like, especially when I coach female entrepreneurs and, they're busy with the kids and all the demands and their husband, and they're like, I don't have time to go work out. I'm like, okay, can we please renegotiate some of the stuff you're doing at home? And a lot of it's psychology, right? It's like, well, I don't want I've heard it all. My mom would judge me if I had somebody clean my house. You're busy to run your house and you're a busy business person, or, they just feel like I need to be the person that makes my kids lunches, so I know that they ate healthy, or, but yet they solve like multi-million-dollar problems and systems and processes in their company. So it's like, I just really want to, like,
100% that they
people to another level of quality of life.
Yeah.
And for some guys, it's like, hey, don't go buy that new supercar. For a fraction of that, go hire somebody that could be supporting you in your personal life, so that you can actually end up buying 10 supercars in 12 months if you actually like redeploy that time in the business.
A nice subtle McLaren in the background there. I like your
just a little bit. My Canadian humbleness is, I'm working on that right there. Trying a little bit.
There it is. Yeah. Well, it ain't bragging if you can do it. You got the real thing to match it, so that's all right.
Nice. Yeah, the fun part for me is I put it all out on the internet, and I, if anybody spends time with me, like, I am what I teach, and it's just, I just could never not do it that way. And like all the struggles, the mindset, even the McLaren, I'll be honest with you, I sold my first company for millions when I was 28, and I could have bought a car there. And, I grew up in a small town. We didn't show money. Like literally nobody really knew. And then, like, when I was 29, we moved back from San Francisco, my wife and I, to start having kids. And we like built like a big house. And that was like, people were like, oh shit, Dan's got money. Right. Even though I sold companies, whatever, they read about it. But honestly, nothing. It was like, I'm a race car guy. I like race BMWs, right? Because they were a little bit more like, not too flashy, like the M cars and whatever. And I remember like working with my car guy to buy the McLaren, and it would have been the first McLaren in the province of New Brunswick at the time. And I was like, I had the whole email thread where I was like, okay, this is the spec, orange, and it's one of my favorite colors, blah blah. And I slept on it. I woke up the next day and I was like, no, let's go with that dark gray option. I don't want to be too in people's faces. And Then the next day I woke up and I said, fuck that, man. Like, get the orange. And here's the thing, dude. I didn't even tell anybody because I had so much anxiety. Like, I didn't want anybody to convince me out of it.
Yeah.
I had a new milestone in my business that I set as a goal. So like, that was my reward. And like, and I remember like, I didn't even tell my wife. Do you can imagine, like, the truck pulls up and I have the video and my wife's like, what's that? And I was like, my heart started going. I was like, holy shit, it's here. So I was like, Peanut, hold this phone and record. And we like went out the driveway and the guy comes out and he's just smiling. He's like, that's awesome. And Renee's like, what did you get? And I was like, and dude, the mindset stuff that had to shift. My wife did not drive in it with me for probably 3 or 4 weeks. She refused. I remember going to CrossFit one day and she's like, I'm going to take my own car. I'm like, why? She goes, I don't want to be that person. I was like, wow, fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah. So now you don't like, now you think the people that are your friends are going to treat you different because now you just happen to have perceived more money. Like, Renee, nothing's changed. Like, we're the same people.
Yeah.
The money hasn't changed. Like, we just happen to have.
Along. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just so fascinating. So like, I actually, me and my buddy Keith called it the McLaren mindset because it really forced me to be comfortable with luxury stuff and like nice stuff. Grew up in not a lot of it. And I just think for a lot of people, it's actually something I coach my clients on, to think of the dualities in life. So it's like the yin and the yang. So the way I think about it is like, you know, there's dark and light, there's good and bad. Who you are today has gotten you where you're at. And if you want to go to the next level, you have to consider the opposite. So what do I mean by that? If you're an introvert and you're not getting the success in marketing, maybe you have to learn a little bit about the extrovert stuff. So what could that look like? It's a 30-day challenge to produce a video live on Facebook. Right. And if I even go as crazy as saying, if you're a vegan, go eat some burgers. Like actually go do the opposite, not to make it a new thing for the rest of your life, but go figure out what's over there that you might go like, oh, I've been judging this thing so much that actually this part's great. And if I bring that into my life, like I want that. Right.
Yeah.
And for me, the McLaren is part of that. I have a lot of clients because, you know, a lot of them, similar stories, grew up in poverty or not a lot. And, you know, but they're passionate. So like one of my clients, David, he finally posted it so I can share this story. This is how crazy it's great because I shared this story. I was coaching the founders of ClickFunnels and Todd was there. Todd went home and bought like this crazy Ferrari. And I was like, and he posted it in the Facebook group, our private group. And he's like, guys, look what I bought. I was like, yes. And then my other client, David, he did the same thing. He went out and like, these are guys that were making like 4 or 5 million a year easily. Right. Like top, like I coach guys that are at like 25 million plus. And David bought this white Ferrari he always wanted. It was like the poster growing up. And he was still so insecure. He didn't tell his parents for a year. He didn't drive it in the garage. So I just share that because like, I think there's a lot of beliefs we have that we just define as like, that's who I am, or that's how I am. And I'm not saying that you have to like become somebody you're not, but I would challenge you to consider the opposite behaviors you currently do as a default, to go see if there's something over there that you might be inspired by. And then as you're over there in that uncomfort zone, like learn about that and maybe incorporate that into your life. In that place, you can find new levels of you.
I love that. You know, I've been playing around with this, looking at, imagine if you applied yourself as the recipe, parsing out the words. Imagine. It starts with imagine, of setting a vision for yourself. Can you imagine you in an orange McLaren, what that would look like? Then moving into if. Okay, so if that was going to happen, what are the reality, the facts of the matter that have to happen? I'd have to have the money for it. You got to have all of the things that are required. Then you have to be the person that could make that stuff go, you know? So that whole thing is, now you move it into the real world, applied. You have to have a plan and you apply that plan. But I've separated the difference between yourself as one word and yourself as your possessive thing, of yourself making up all of you, which includes your capabilities, your network, your staff, your team, your things. So you get everything in alignment there. And it's just what you were talking about, when people look at the all of that stuff, that's the way. And it's got to start. What better way than buying back your time to as the starting point for any kind of moving thing? Whatever you're going to do, you're going to have to reallocate the way the time is. So,
and this is true. Even people think it's just for entrepreneurs. This is for every person in the world. If you want to level up, you need to figure out how do you get more time in your calendar to do that. It may not be spending money. It may be just being a lot more disciplined. But if you max out on that stuff, then you got to start making, time trades with dollars.
So, okay. So the book's available everywhere that books are available.
Yeah. It's all over the place. Buy Back Your Time is the best place because that's where I've got a bunch of tools and templates. I'm going to be giving away like a lot of frameworks that I couldn't put in the book because they were too like heavy. But yeah, buybackyyourtime.com. And yeah, I'm on all socials. Dan Martell, 2 L's and Martell. Instagram's my favorite, but I publish, even on TikTok and LinkedIn and YouTube, all unique content.
All the places.
I'm a big fan of teaching everything I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Dan, I have had such a blast. We'll have to do it again because this is good. I think I might love I'll twist your arm and do a Q&A session with you at some point here. We'll get
I'd love that. Anything, Dean. Just ask.
Who've read the book, we'll do a specific thing. That's what we'll do is get the book. And then for our audience that has got it, we'll do a Q&A with you at some point. That'd be fantastic.
Consider it done. I'd appreciate that. Cool. All right, Dean. Thanks again.